Thanks so much for joining me on the Slice of Healthcare podcast. How are you today?
I'm great. Happy to be here. Thanks, Jared.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. I know we just chatted recently and got to know each other a little bit more, but I'm very excited to learn more about you and the company on the podcast today. I think we should dive right into it. If you could tell me a little bit about your background, kind of how you got to where today, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have sort of a non-traditional background, started in finance like a lot of folks, but um, quickly knew that I didn't want to live in the financial world. So I quickly moved into product development, did a little venture work. And then for 6 years, I spent working at this artificial intelligence and machine learning company where we built and sold software for Fortune 100 companies. And that was heavily around the customer experience space. So really building these elevated digital experiences for these big companies. So yeah, and then the genesis of Carecard came from sort of a personal problem. I went to the pharmacy and couldn't believe it. My prescription was $200, and I was I had great insurance at the time, so I was just baffled by all of that. So I took a deeper dive into that industry, and I figured if I was having that issue, then millions of Americans were having the same. So um, that was sort of the genesis of Carecard, and here we are, years later.
Perfect. Yeah, no, it's although you were talking about kind of coming from the finance background and then now you're in this space, I'm seeing more of a trend of that. And
Yep.
why do you think that is? Is it because of like the kind of the focus on analytics and like that attention to detail? Do you think that that's certainly, I guess, helped you as you kind of go into this space, or what is it?
I think I could make a case for connecting the dots backward that it did help me. Having a financial services background can never hurt you. Understanding how markets work and move and whatnot. I think that's wildly beneficial. But the financial sector now, it's everything's moving towards fintech. Sort of a technology version of what used to be. So we're seeing a huge push towards that, and I think healthcare as well. Like every one of these legacy businesses is being disrupted somehow in some form by a version of technology. Um, so I think financial services today versus financial services 10 years ago was even way different. We see companies like Stripe and Plaid and these folks disrupting traditional financial services, and they're multi-billion-dollar companies coming out of everywhere, it seems to be.
Yeah, I read an article recently too. I forget where it was from. It was talking about how like every company in the future is going to be somewhat of a fintech company. Based on like the just everyone's coming up with these creative business models and how they're charging people, and like you're starting to see more people offer the where you can spread out your payment no matter what you're doing, even if it's a software or like a legit product.
Yeah,
It's kind of interesting.
very interesting. And I think I saw one the other day that's trying to get folks paid every day versus the traditional getting paid every 2 weeks or whatever. But like it sort of opens your mind to what's possible with these new technologies, right? Like you start to question some of the legacy markets and some of the things that we've always grown used to.
Yeah, that's a good point. Can we dive into a little bit about Carecard? I know you mentioned a little bit in your intro, but the why, how, what in terms of the company, and then kind of go from there.
Yeah, I would say at a broad level, Carecard is a healthcare technology company. Um, and more specifically, it's a marketplace for prescription medicine. And at Carecard, we believe feeling better shouldn't cost a fortune, right? So we built this advanced set of technology, and we have these great relationships with big pharmacies, and this allows us to set lower prices on tens of thousands of prescription drugs. So whether you're uninsured or insured, we always recommend to price compare your prescription on our website before purchasing. If you look at every other aspect of our lives, whether it's booking a hotel, booking an airline flight, you have this optionality to price compare before you purchase. But the entire healthcare pharma ecosystem has been historically this very opaque kind of black box of an industry where you don't really know what you're getting until you're at the pharmacy and it's almost too late. So I saw this trend of, I think it was around 50% of folks don't even pick up the prescription at the pharmacy because when they get there, they see the sticker shock, just as I did initially, and they just leave it there, right? So we're sort of providing this transparent layer in basically a historically, abstract world. So, it seems to be going well. Folks like being able to price compare and shop before they pay at checkout.
And one of the things I mentioned too when we first spoke was I really like the brand, the aesthetics when I'm looking at the site and kind of entering in information. And I know, I know when we say some of that today, but like it's like, yeah, that's great and everything. But in healthcare, that's still a major problem. Like these platforms are not looking and feeling the best. So kudos to you and your team for getting that right kind of out of the gate, which is awesome.
Well, thank you. I think so. I mentioned I spent a lot of time in product management and sort of building products that I hope people liked, right? So we're very deliberate about the brand from day one. We have some very talented designers and devs that we work with, and just couldn't be more thrilled in the direction we're heading. And then the overall Carecard name, I think we wanted to build something that was easy to understand, easy to use, and ultimately, when you make those things happen, it just makes the customer experience that much better.
Absolutely. What are some of the things you're most excited about as we're getting into 2021?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I will say I'll come from that from two angles. Some of the technology that we're building, I think is amazing. My background in technology for the past 6 years, I think has sort of paved the way for some of the things we're doing now. But maybe even more important than that is what we're doing on a community level. And when I set out to build Carecard, I wanted to make a very strong impact at a community level. So, we've built the access channel for these folks to save on their prescriptions, but now my job is educating these groups, whether they be member groups, nonprofits, et cetera, educating them on how to go about using this and that these are available. A lot of folks just don't know that these discounts are available through us, and they also don't know that the same drug at CVS can be wildly different in price than the same drug at Walgreens, for example. So just educating these folks on what's available, I think is wildly exciting, and we've got a ton of cool partnerships coming up, and we'll be announcing those sort of as the months go on here.
Perfect. And just so the audience knows, you and I spoke about this, but this podcast episode is really about getting to know you, getting to know Carecard more, and then with the hope of having you on and other members of your team on multiple times throughout the year to focus in on core parts of your business.
Yeah, absolutely. Just excited to be a part, and I'm just thrilled with what you've done here. 100th podcast already launched, like quite an amazing feat that you've already done there.
Thank you. Yeah, it was it really ramped up after like COVID, especially. It's just I've always enjoyed talking with people like you and companies like yours that are innovating in the healthcare space. And I feel like even the larger and like newer, when you look at the whole spectrum of healthcare startups, I feel like we don't often talk enough about like how things started, what you're excited for. Like that's one of the first questions I ask when I first meet someone, like what excites you? Like, and if I can see their eyes light up, I don't, it's not that I know they're going to like win or anything like that, but when your eyes light up, when someone asks you something like that and you're able to like say what's exciting you, it's very hard for you to not get to that point and to not actually like, I don't know. That's just it might not always be true. It might just be luck, and that's what's been happening. But I always like to ask that question.
No, I think it's important to have, a real passion for what you're doing, because this is hard work. Like everyone thinks building a company, let me rephrase, not everyone, but startups are cool and sexy and whatnot, but this is a tremendously hard job. And I think if you don't have passion for what you're doing, it's easy to burn out along the way. So, we're very focused on the mission here of just affordable healthcare for all, and then, how we can best achieve that. So yeah, just very exciting.
Yeah, I think I think Instagram and just social media in general has really glamorized entrepreneurship, right? People like, oh, you're your own boss. You can be out, surfing and on a boat. And it's like, well, no, actually, you usually don't go outside much. So it's like the complete opposite. So anyone that sees those pictures and videos online, like whatever they're doing, it's usually the exact opposite of that.
Yeah, these overnight successes that we see in mainstream media have sort of been preceded by years and years of just grinding and hard work. But what you see on the other side is just all the glitz and glamour of of all that hard work. So
yeah, I even, which is kind of crazy, I hear like with Elon Musk, overnight success type stuff, and I'm like, you realize him and his brother were sleeping on, they had one couch and they had one computer and they were switching off coding like day and night and showering at the YMCA. Like it takes so long to get to a certain point like that. And then so many people try to compare themselves to the Bezos and the Musk. Like they're on just such a different level than like everyone else. Like, don't think that's the normal path, right?
I agree. Those guys are just tremendous influencers, but also just kind of American heroes at this point. And they're probably our two most important entrepreneurs we have right now. So I root for those guys, and it's just fun to see what they're able to do.
Yeah, two of my favorite books are the one on Musk and the one on just Amazon and Bezos. And I always tell everyone, like, if they can read those books, they're just, it's so cool to know they're both those guys and their full stories, how they kind of got to where they are today. And they don't do too much press. Well, Musk does, but kind of his own curated press. Bezos, I feel like, still tries to stay out of it. It's not like you hear him going on many interviews, right, and talking about his journey as much.
I think it would be a challenge to stay out of the press, at that level. But hey, these guys have lives to live too,
Yeah, I mean, Musk is one tweet away from sending a stock skyrocketing. My favorite, one of my the funniest things like with him is when he went on Joe Rogan, right, and was actually like smoking on Joe Rogan, and the stock tanked, and then he bought all this stock after, and then the stock just skyrocketed after. It's kind of nuts. Yeah, crazy. Well, David, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. I look forward to having you and members of your team on again to talk about some kind of do a deeper dive into areas specific to your business, but appreciate you coming on this intro podcast and look forward to keeping in touch.
Happy to, Jared. Thanks a lot. And, wish you guys all the best there. We'll talk soon.